Very good morning, everyone. I can see 70 of you have joined, and I hope you're all doing great and feeling excited today. Yeah. So let's begin. And today we are about to kick off another power packed session. And before we begin, let's wake up our chat and bring some energy into the room. Hi, Varsha.
Hi, Dipti, and good morning, everyone. Most welcome to this session again, as Dipti said. And those of you who are celebrating Easter, wishing you a very, very happy Easter. Over to you, Dipti.
Thank you. Before I start, let me just brush up on previous Springboard participant list. Participants who have registered so far is 3,204, and yet to register is 2,900, which is a quite a big number. But I hope everybody present here would have registered so far. If not, please visit Springboard and register yourself and go through the learning app, go through our Witch Hunt channel, and start learning, right? So, the first question for you all today is how are you doing today? And if you can drop an emoji stating your feeling, what is the feeling of today? How is your energy today? Let us see what is it. So, drop in an emoji that shows your feeling today. Let me see. Bhagishri is happy. Yes, yeah. Vaishnavi is also feeling happy. Arpita is full of
I sent the link to all the groups. They are just joining in. Just give them 2 more minutes.
Okay, yeah. So we are back. Sorry about this glitch, and participants are joining back. I'm seeing the number rising.
Yeah, they have just realized that previous link is not working and they are all questioning. So after this link, they are joining back again, Varsha.
Sure, sure. Okay. We'll wait for another minute. Dipti, if you're speaking, your voice is very feeble.
No, I'm not speaking.
Okay,
Can
okay.
you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear.
Okay.
Yeah, I think once we cross 100, we can start. People
Yes,
will
we have posted the link
and
everywhere. I think they're
yeah,
it's 97, so they're all rejoining.
wonderful background, Pratik. Pratik, I hope if you don't have a hard stop at 12, if we have to extend little bit by 15 minutes or so because
Yeah,
of this.
yeah, not a
Okay,
problem.
sure.
Yes, I have buffer time
Perfect.
easily.
Thank you so much.
Not at all. Let me start with
Yeah, maybe you can pose the same question back.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I also share my screen, I'm thinking. Yeah. But actually, if I do that, then I can't see the chat.
You have to toggle between the two, no?
Yeah, I'll have to do this, then you'll see. I think there is a way. If I do only
If you
share
come out of slide
window.
mode, it allows you to see the.
Is that right? Hmm.
Alternately, Prateek, we can help verbalize anything coming back on chat.
Yeah, you could do that
Yes,
then.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, that
we
should
have
work.
crossed 100. Thank you. You
Mm.
may start.
Yeah, okay. So I would welcome back everybody once more. And it's a good thing to have a glitch. We can give some design feedback to teams. Uh,
Yes.
and it reminds me of a quote by Don Norman who said, you know, everything around us is something that's designed by someone else, or maybe by even yourself. So when we want to When we think the world is not how it should be, we know that world has been designed by someone else. If you want to see a world that you like, then we need to design what we want to see around ourselves. And I think that is the power of design. Everything that we would like to see surrounding us, we have to take charge and design it. It doesn't just happen by wishing or out of thin air. Someone consciously put thought into it and they've designed it. And that goes not just about products and services, but also political systems, communities, social systems, all kinds of things around us are actually conscious design, other than what's been designed by nature, which we have the ability to either leverage or impact in other ways as well. But I would encourage us to think about sending feedback to teams, but also knowing that we have the power to design everything that surrounds us. And as you think about what you would like to take away from this session, my endeavor would be that you walk away knowing very well that design thinking is a problem solving technique and that you learn how to use it. And as a practitioner, I would love for you to also know that, in a manner of speaking, design thinking is like yoga. It has many limbs to it. At an initial level, everyone thinks of yoga as yogasan and just different ways of shaping your body. But yoga has 8 limbs, and that are beyond just thinking about how to be flexible and strong, but works on 7 other aspects of our being, including meditation, dhyan, dharana, samadhi, and you can check that out. And it's also, more importantly, it's a lifestyle. It's not just a way of exercising, but it's a way of thinking and a way of eating, way of being. In some time, design thinking can become like that. What I'll share with you will be the yogasan part of yoga, if you will, for design thinking, which seems very practical and very easy to get to. But as you practice it, the path will reveal itself. You will get to know other aspects of design thinking that can begin to shape you and shape things around you. The third thing I would like to say just at the outset before I start sharing and have the opportunity to share what I've learned is have a few sheets of paper with you, please, and if possible, have a stack of post-its around, and I'll let you know when we will need to use that. And then, without any further instructions on what to expect, what to do, let me share my screen and we'll get this party started. Uh, if you have questions, feel free to type them in the chat. And I request my co-hosts to please read out the questions for me because I won't be able to see them on the screen. So there we go. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and I'm sharing my entire screen, and we go here. Here we go. So today, like I was saying, we will touch upon not just design thinking but also design doing, because design thinking is a bit of a misnomer. There's a lot of doing in this. There's just a sequence of ways in which you need to think about what to think and what to do, and there's a cycle for it, and I'll talk about that. But actually, the first real question really is like, why should you even learn design thinking and give 90 minutes of your or 2 hours of your precious time thinking about something and doing something? The reason is that the reason is about humans and experiences. And as you would have read this quote by now in this slide, experiences, and you would know this experientially as well. And I'm drawing from research done by my previous organization. And you'll see several others have done similar research as well, which says that the experience is paramount. in addition to a good product or a good service, how we feel about something actually determines how often we will do it, how frequently you would do it, would you pay a premium for it or not, and would your behavior change because of that? If given that experiences are really really important and paramount, it goes beyond form and feature of an object or a thing or a service. How you feel about it really makes a massive difference. One of the ways to create a stellar experience is actually by understanding human behavior, and then using that to create new experiences. Design thinking is one such way to create incredibly meaningful and memorable experiences. When you do that, then you will drive growth and you will drive advocacy for whatever it is that you create. Growth in terms of more number of people, different usages of it, advocacy in terms of one person telling someone else to use it and talking about it without even being prompted. Uh, and as you think about driving social change and this witch hunt that you're doing, uh, creating experiences that then therefore becomes very, very paramount. Let me tell you a small story to bring that to life. This is a story about this person whose picture you see here. His name is Doug Dietz. He was a designer with GE, and he was part of a team that designed what I'll show you on this slide. And I would love to know, and it would have been great if I could hear. I know you perhaps are muted, but I would love to know if you know what this machine is and what is it used for. And just take 10 seconds and write if one or yes if you know what this machine is, and or name the machine itself. And I would imagine some of you will get this right. If
Uh, Chitra is
if you've
already saying
thought,
it's MRI machine.
yes. So if it is, if you said MRI machine, you're absolutely right. Uh, if you've had an opportunity to see it, great. If you've had an opportunity and you're brave enough to actually have had to be a part of the MRI machine experience, then I hope all is well. Uh, but this MRI machine experience, Doug Dietz created this in one of those days, like a good designer. He was at a hospital with a set of doctors and nurses, checking with them about the machine and its usage. How easy is it to use? How effective is it? And so on and so forth. And they wanted to know from he wanted to know from the doctors and nurses if they are using the machine well, and he was seeking feedback. One of the doctors then asked Doug if he would like to see a patient, using the machine, and or the doctors and nurses helping a patient get an MRI scan. And Doug said, "Yeah, why not? I think that's going to be great." And so he hung around for some time, and then they said the patient is on the way. In the hallway, he saw two adults, a man and a woman, and in the middle of them, a small child. And they were walking down the hallway. And as you can imagine, a 7-year-old child, it was a 7-year-old girl. She was all bubbly and chirpy and jumping around and talking to her parents, happily giggling, and just walking down the corridor. And as they got till the MRI machine room, where the doors were closed, uh, and then they stopped for the doors to be open. The doors were opened, and it was dark inside, and the machine had some lights bleeping. and the red light and a yellow light and some blue lights, and the little girl froze. And instead of taking a step forward, she took a couple of steps back, and she started crying. She was terrified of this machine. Imagine someone, this machine is like at least, the size of the room. So it's easily, 12 to 14 feet tall. And it's as wide, if not wider. And from the height of a 7-year-old, that really looked like a monster. And she started crying uncontrollably. And her father knelt down and told the child, "Sweetie, we talked about this. It's going to be okay. I know this is scary. You are a strong child. You are very strong. We will get through it together. Don't worry." But nothing, and no one could console her. And what followed was that she was sedated. And that is what was done to at least 99% of the children who went in for a MRI scan. Because for a MRI scan to work really well, one needs to stay really still. And in a space like this, it can get fairly claustrophobic. And it's not very fun to get into a dark tunnel in an unknown environment with unknown people around you, um, and with something that is way bigger than you. And therefore, this child was also sedated. She was laid on this gurney, and the MRI scan was done. And when the scan was over, then the dad picked up the child from the bed here, and he kind of started walking out, but he said to nobody in particular, "I don't know where I even parked." And Doug was watching all of this, and he was heartbroken because just before the patient came in, the child came in, he was in a place of pride. He was very proud that he's created a machine that allows humans to understand what's going on inside our bodies in a non invasive manner. And when he saw here what experience the parents and the patient, the child, had, it was very harrowing, and it really broke his heart. And from being proud, he was very sad because he felt this is not the experience he would like the patient to have. And as he was driving back that day, uh, he stopped by at a park. He was himself feeling really crestfallen. And he looked at what was going on in that park where children were playing. And I'll cut this long story short. He took inspiration from that to say, let me spend more time with kids. And he started spending time in a kindergarten that was close to his office, and he saw that children are really creative and that they can they can make a game out of anything that that you give them. And it could be a table, a chair, a blanket, and a table with a blanket can become a cave, and a small, any could be a tent, and they are so creative that they can make a game out of anything. And with that inspiration, he created what I'll again show you. I'll come back to my screen. Is He created this series. He printed decals in a place like Printo in the US, plastic decals, and they put that on the MRI scanner. And they made this into what is called the Adventure series. It looked like a summer camp that the child would go to during summer. And and then they also, what they did was, beyond making it look like this, they created a picture book that was sent to a person, to a child who was supposed to get an MRI scan. That coloring book and connect the dot book had different animals and shapes that they would see at the summer camp. It was sent to them in advance when they booked an appointment, and the children, would color it typically and come to the scan. And they thought, let's dip into the sense of adventure and imagination that children have. And they created these two things, what you see on the screen and what I described. And then one of the days he was back to do a test of how this works out with the patients who were scheduled. And then there was another little child who was scheduled for an MRI scan. And this was a 5-year-old or six, I think it was a 6-year-old girl who had come in with her mom and dad. And as she walked in towards the door, the room was well lit. It looked like this, and the child was very excited. There were pebbles that were a pathway that came till this tent. The doctors and nurses were also dressed up like one of them like a forest ranger, and the other one as a camp instructor. And the nurse then knelt down to the child and said to the child, we're going to play a game. Are you ready? And the child said, yes, I'm ready. What should we do? And the nurse said to the child, if you stay really still and we will all keep quiet and you also keep quiet, you will hear some animal sounds. And you remember that book that we sent to you 2 weeks back? And the child nodded, her head in excitement. And they said, in that book, there were many animals. You will hear the same animal sounds. And we'd like you to count how many animals you hear. And when the game is over, we'll get you out of the cave and you have to tell us how many animals you heard. And then they agreed and they gave a high five. The child got onto this bed, and the MRI scan was done. Some animal sounds were played as well. And as the child came out, uh, they asked how many animals they heard and this and that, and the child hopped off. And the child told her dad, Dad, when can we do this again? And that is for me a really, really great example of how design thinking works. And I'll tell you some more. That was just, the child being really happy. In addition to that, the uh, uh, the MRI scan was successful because the child stayed really still. Number three, the complications that happen because of sedation and so on and so forth, they started to reduce. And over a period of time, they noticed that the rate of sedation went down from 99% to less than 1%, which not only reduced the complications that happen because of sedation, but it also reduced the amount of time an MRI scan took. So it increased the turnaround time for this machine's usage, and the usage of the machine went up. As the usage went up, the news went around from this Chicago hospital to all the other hospitals, and they started calling them to find out what they were doing to have such high turnaround times on MRI scans. And they shared that this was an adventure series by GE, and then other hospitals started ordering adventure series as well. And that to me is a fantastic example of how you can solve a problem by being in someone else's shoes and looking at the world from their perspective, by leveraging their strengths to help solve a problem for them and for everyone else around them. The other big takeaway that I'd like you to note is that it's almost never about the transaction. In this case, the transaction being an MRI scan. It's always what happens before a transaction, during a transaction, and after a transaction. In this case, before the transaction, there was a coloring book, connect the dots book. During the transaction, you see the picture, you've heard the story. Post the transaction, the children were given stars and a certificate of attending a summer camp because many of these children were terminally ill and or severely ill and did not have an opportunity to actually participate in sports or outdoor activities like their siblings or their friends. And they tended to feel sad about not having those experiences. But the star that they got and a certificate and a picture that they got from this became very proud possessions for them. And in this, they weaved the transaction, but also what happened before and after. And this brings to life many aspects, and I'll touch upon them as we proceed. Uh, what I'd love for you to do is to now dig into the framework for design thinking beyond the story. And the framework, in a way, is very simplistic. It it is comprised of these 5 steps. Um but the design thinking framework, first and foremost, is a problem solving technique. Like many other problem solving techniques you may have heard of or you use, or if you haven't, then this is one way of solving problems. In my experience, it is one really fantastic way to solve complex problems. And the 5 steps that are there is empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. In this picture, they look linear and overlapping, but in reality, they are, you can loop back. They are recursive, and it does not need to follow a straight line. You may do empathize and define and ideate, and instead of going to prototype, you may jump back to empathize because you figure you needed to learn more about the end user. And I'll dig into each one of these as well as we go along. But just remember that there are these 5 steps and they don't necessarily have to be linear. And you can do them in the first pass, you can do it in this straight line. But after that, you could do it in any order. Uh, One thing I'd like you to do now is if you have sheets of paper and because you all are sitting together as well, um, if you can take a sheet of paper and and I wonder, I'm doing this as an experiment now that I know that many of you are doing this together. Actually, even if you're alone, take a sheet of paper and um, I'll give you 60 seconds and I'd like you to create a paper aeroplane. Does that sound like something you can do? If yes, then I will start the music and let's start making this paper plane. Let me see if I can get this started. Uh,
Very nice exercise, Pratik. I'm reminded of our younger days.
And on that, if you, yeah, let's just stop. And whatever sheet of paper you've got, and whatever aeroplane or aeroplane-ish thing you've made, on one wing of it, write your name. Especially if you're in a group. If you're alone, then that's fine. And on the other wing, write down, how are you feeling right now? Right at this moment, how are you feeling? Write that down. Don't let the others see what you're writing. And now that you've written it, especially if you're in a group, you could stand around and aim at somebody and throw that plane. Don't aim at their eyes, but fly that plane. And now you've flown it. I'd like you to guess, ideally, someone you don't know very well. What do you think they have written about how they are feeling? And I don't know how this will go because this is, you're doing this yourselves and we're not really able to see. But when we do this in person, and I've done this game now, I think at least 50 times in rooms that I've not known people before, and most people don't know each other. 9 out of 10 times when we ask people to guess, let's say I would ask you to guess what is what my plane says, what is Prateek feeling like right now? 9 out of 10 times, the chances are that we don't guess it correctly. For our friends, the chances increase that, at least uh, 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 3 out of 4 times we can guess what our friend is thinking. But for people we don't know very well, 9 out of 10 times we are unable to guess what they're thinking, even though we may be in the same environment, doing similar things, and having the same lead up to that space. The point of this exercise really is to say it is very difficult for us to understand what are others thinking and feeling. And even if you know them, quite a lot of times for deeper things, we don't know what the other person is thinking and feeling. And therefore, acknowledging that and then working with that is the first step for design thinking. The first step is to empathize, and it requires us to step away from who we are, drop our own assumptions and our biases, and step into someone else's shoes and look at the world from their perspective. And it's very important to know that our stakeholders or who we are solving for is not the same as us. We may come from the same place, we may come from similar experiences, and whatever other similarities we may have, it's really important to recognize that when we are solving for others, we need to look at the world from their eyes. We need to be in places where they are or they have been. We need to feel what they're feeling. And therefore, almost if possible, literally, we need to walk a few miles in their shoes, in the shoes of our stakeholders. And only then we have a good chance of understanding what they're thinking and feeling. And the reason why it's really important to understand what are others thinking and feeling is because thinking, feeling, and doing are three big components of creating a stellar experience. Stellar or terrible or whatever, right? Those things constitute an experience. And when you know what are others thinking and feeling and doing, you give yourself a tremendous opportunity for creating experiences that they would deeply appreciate and value, that would be meaningful and memorable for them. So one of the first, in a way, toolkit is for empathy is what we call an empathy map. And that's what you see on the screen now. It has these 6 components: the say, think, feel, do, motivations, and challenges. And you use this tool by, you fill this up later. The first step really is to spend time with these stakeholders. Ask them open-ended questions, not questions that end up in a yes or a no. To say, oh, are you, do you have access to a doctor? Um, Instead of that, maybe an open-ended question would be, uh, what do you do for staying healthy? Or when you're feeling unhealthy, what happens? And you look for stories. You ask people to tell you a story or an experience. And by doing that, and or you observe, you simply observe without asking questions, being a fly on the wall, just hanging around, seeing what are people doing and thinking, doing and saying. And from that, then try and decipher what are they thinking and feeling. The focus at this time is on what is not being said, what is not met, and what is not articulated. Because the power of changing and creating something deeply meaningful and memorable stays in the unmet, in the unarticulated, and the unsaid. And our ability to do that by being in other people's shoes helps us think about what is it that would be game changing for them. The motivations, the challenges are pretty straightforward in that sense. But these also have layers of depth that may not be known, right? Overt motivations are easier to understand. People may even articulate that. But covert motivations, and those could be positive or not so positive, but also inner drive and the reasons why people get motivated to do something or not are important to understand. And the challenges, actual quote unquote and or perceived, are important to note down as well. And to do this, what I've seen in my experience, the best thing to do is the inspiration I take from this quote, which is, if you want to know a hell of a lot about lions, you better go to the jungle and not to the zoo. You've got to go where people actually are and live that life. As one of the early trainees in Unilever, uh, working on our dairy business, I actually lived in a village for 8 weeks with a villager in their hut without getting any access to the stipend and the salary that Unilever was giving me, except once a week to get back to the factory guest house. But I lived in their village with a villager who was kind enough to have me live with them. Ate what they ate, did what they did, right? And especially for somebody like me who had never lived in a village, I think that was really eye-opening. And at that point, the purpose really was for us to understand, me and several others, to understand the life in rural India so that we could create products for that organization or that were within their remit and position that for rural India. But I've seen that this same technique work very well in social contexts as well. This applies across the board. The trick really is that also to understand that this is not the same as sending out a survey when you send, or even a focus group interview. Because when we send out a survey, one, you may have multiple choice questions or a yes no questions. It's unlikely that you will get stories. Even if you ask people to write down details, nobody really is writing you stories back. They're not going to send you letters, or even then, they may not tell you exactly what's on their mind. Because when we speak, we don't always speak what we are feeling or thinking. We may say things that we think you want to hear. Uh, so this is a very, very critical step in solving a problem really well. And one should spend a significant amount of time doing empathy, which then gets us to step number two, which is about defining the problem. Once we have understood what are people saying, thinking, feeling, and doing, what are their motivations and challenges, then in context of the problem that you're solving, you can understand that taking the time to define the problem right is half the battle won. And design thinking focuses on spending significant amount of time on empathizing and defining, and rather than on the other steps. Not to say that the other steps are not important, but it's really critical. A problem well defined, someone way smarter than me said, a problem well defined is a problem half solved. And therefore, taking the time to frame the right problem is critical. And in order to do that, it is important to frame many problems. And I wanted to share a story with you about this lady, Monica Golindo, in Mexico City. And I'm mindful of time, so I'll tell the story a little shorter. But in one of my consulting gigs, we were asked to work with an organization that makes bakery products and goods. And for them, they were losing market share, and we needed to help them. They came up with an idea of creating a loyalty program for mom and pop retailers, and they wanted us to design and implement that loyalty program. And as you can imagine, we said we would like to start the project by doing a 4-week market study and to do ethnography, which is this fancy word for doing primary research. And we went and met, 50 different mom and pop retailers in Mexico City, and to just understand exactly what their day in the life looks like. What do they do? What are their motivations? What are their challenges? What are they typically thinking and feeling and doing and saying? And what are their unmet, unarticulated needs? And in certain parts, we learned 2 or 3 things. One of the big things in this story of Monica is Monica was, the chief person in the house. Her husband was a plumber, her son an electrician. She used to manage the shop for the most part. Her husband and son would help out in the evening after they were done with their electrician or plumbing jobs. Their shop was also in a rough neighborhood where there were enough crimes. And when we met her, we figured that it was, she had opened her store only a couple of years before we met her in a neighborhood that was quite old and had many other grocery stores as well. And she had put out a camera with continuous recording of what was going on the street outside her store. And whenever there was something untoward that happened in that neighborhood, people would gather around her and store to look at the video recording to see if they could find any clues to what may have happened. And when we asked her why was she spending time and money doing all that recording, she said that helped her not just serve the community and make it safer, but it also helped her feel there were many people who would then need to come to her shop beyond the products that she was selling. And she wanted to contribute to making her street safer. We also figured that many other shopkeepers who were successful were doing something to make themselves the center of the community by putting out chairs where people could hang out and have a Coke or a Pepsi or a drink together, and or like these plumbing and electrician services. One of the shops had, they would advertise whichever apartments or houses were for rent nearby, and they were not just increasing footfall, but they wanted to be the center of the community. They were contributing to making the place safer and so on and so forth. And then we went back to the organization we were working with, and we figured that if they could actually, instead of giving a typical loyalty program, right, gives you points for or dollars off, cents off every dollar, or like 10 rupees off every 100 you spend, and they're more monetary in nature. Uh, we figured that sort of a loyalty program is not really going to make these organizations more loyal to this company, because it's also very easy for competitors to replicate. And we figured that it would be much better if our client could somehow help each mom and pop retailer become the center of the community they were in. And to become the center of the community, the funds that they had for funding the loyalty program, we asked them to contribute that towards either installing cameras or installing notice boards where different advertisements of the neighborhood could be put up, or for places where people could sit and play chess or foosball or what have you, and help the retailer become the center of the community. And we were able to convince that organization to divert the funding and the budget. Instead of making a loyalty program the way they had designed earlier to give cents off every dollar spent, they converted it into programs like this, which were driven by community members and were hosted by mom and pop retailers. That increased loyalty for their product because the retailers figured that the sorry about that. That's my pet not being very happy. Um, and the mom and pop retailers then let me just get the door. Sorry about that. Give me a second. Sorry about that. As you can imagine, then that made the mom and pop retailers more loyal because they figured that this organization truly cares about what they care about. And I think that it's really important to figure out the stakeholders who you are solving for. What do they truly care about? What are their unmet, unarticulated needs? If we had asked the mom and pop retailers, what would you like in a loyalty program? It's very unlikely that they would have told us, help us become a center of the community, or help fund that camera, security camera, or help fund a notice board. They would have said, you should give us so many points instead of this many points that the competitor gives. And, people tend to say to you what they think you want to hear. We all always also do not know what we want. So, instead of asking direct questions around what would you like and what would you want, or let me say, in addition to asking those direct questions, we need to ask more indirect, open-ended, wider questions, um, and then narrow down into what problem, if solved, would be game changing for them, would make their life really, really awesome. And that then gets us to the third step of design thinking, which is about ideation. And this is something that we've done many times before, but I'll give you a snapshot of what that might be. If you've played this 9 dot challenge, then maybe you can challenge yourself to play it differently. But if you've not, then I'd like you to create 9 dots on a sheet of paper like what you see on the screen, and I'll count down from 5 till you make these 9 dots, and then I'll tell you the next thing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. What you need to do now is, without, take a pen, and you need to connect all these 9 dots using 4 lines or less only. And you need, so I'll repeat, using a pen or a pencil and without lifting it from the sheet of paper, connect all these 9 dots using 3 or 4 lines or less. And I'll give you 30 seconds to do this. And I didn't embed music on this slide, so I'll just count down on my phone. And you have 15 seconds left, guys. And many of you may have got it. Some of you haven't got it. Don't fret. This is not an exam. It's just a puzzle to make this point, which is, here's one way to solve it. When you start from here, that's the first line. You need to go beyond this boundary that we tend to create for ourselves using the 9 dots. When you go beyond it, then there is this line that you can make, and this is the 4th line. That's how you can connect all these 9 dots using 4 lines or less without lifting your pencil. The point of this really is to say that sometimes the solution that we need to create is outside the box that we may see ourselves in. A lot of times our mind, right, like as humans, we have evolved because we are really good at pattern recognition. This pattern tends to remind us not just, we can see the 9 dots, but also an imaginary rectangle and 4 squares. When we think of those rectangles and squares, we draw lines around it without thinking of them. And as we draw lines, it becomes difficult for us to cross those lines. We create boundaries. And this is a metaphor for how we create boundaries in our own minds for many things that we see and take for granted. And we think this is the only way this can be done. Or we create rules to say, no, this cannot be done in another way. No, we can't cross this boundary. And I'm not asking you to break rules. Definitely not the ones that are, morally or legally bound. But beyond that, I would encourage you to break rules, to go beyond the convention, to use the cliche, to think outside the box. A lot of times we box ourselves into usual patterns of thinking, recognize those patterns and break them. Easier said than done. But I'll tell you one inspiration and some ways of doing it. Uh, let's see if you can hear this sound. I'm unable to see your faces, but I would imagine typically when I do this, right, like by the middle of this visual and this video, people know which brand is going to show up. Disney comes to their mind, right? Like Disney is famous for making really memorable characters, right from Mickey Mouse to Frozen and what have you. Uh, the way they do ideation is very different. The way they do ideation is by you've seen this visuals. It kind of is a spoiler, if you will. Uh, the red colors are what a typical ideation or brainstorming looks like. And most people start ideating when, or most teams, right, start by being in the spoiler room, which is a room where anytime someone comes up with an idea, we poke holes in that idea and we say that this cannot be done. I don't think you have enough experience in this space. What you're saying is not practical. No, 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 no. And, we just keep killing ideas. And that's because it makes us look smart. And we've been all given brownie points for this because in the past, being efficient with coming up with solutions is what's rewarded. The faster you can come up with an idea, the smarter we are thought to be. So it's very cool to be in the spoiler room. And most people in a brainstorming session spend at least 70% of their time in the spoiler room. And then they come to the realist room to say, now, let's think about what's practical and what is actually realistic to do. We don't have all the time and the money on this planet to do all the things that we would like. We are limited by the resources. Let's just be realistic and let's create a solution that is possible, that's feasible. And that is then we spend 30 to 40% of the time doing that and almost 0% in the dreamer room. What that does is our ability to take risks is very less, and we come up with only truly incremental solutions that move the ball from here to here. And it's just incremental because we know we've been here. If we try harder, do something else, do slightly different, then we can get a step up. What Disney does is it inverts all of this on its head. And it starts by taking an idea into the dreamer room. And they allow themselves the leeway to think really broadly all over the place. And they go into La La Land and they don't worry about if it's feasible and viable, if it can be done or not. They drop judgment on that for some time and they build on each other's ideas. So they do sentences like yes and as opposed to but. They use and a lot. So if they don't like an idea that someone else says, they think about why they didn't like it and they build on that part. So they've built the muscle to actually get into the dreamer room. From the dreamer room, then they go to the spoiler room. And all the fantastic ideas, fantastic as in, they're not practical. They are probably very likely not possible based on the amount of time and money they have. And then they try to make those ideas sharper. They ask the spoiler questions about those ideas. And from there, they get to the realist room and make ideas realistic. What that does is it gives them a chance to create something that doesn't exist and create an exponential curve. And on that, then they say, we are here, we'd like to get here, but that just feels like too much of a jump. It's not realistic, but we figured out a way to get here. They give themselves a chance to do something much more than if they had started in the spoiler or the realist room. And said another way, it is what's on this Venn diagram. When and if you don't know what's a Venn diagram, just think of them as these three intersecting circles. Uh, most so the three things are desirable, feasible, as in is it practical, is it possible to do, viable, as in is it financially viable, will it make money. If we put $10, if we put 100 rupees on it, will it return 1,000 rupees to us or not? And most of our ideation start with either feasibility or viability, to say, do we have the time, money, or resources to do what we are thinking of doing or not? And does this technology even exist that we can be in 5 places or 2 places at the same time? Uh, Disney, or what I described by being in the dreamer room, is about coming at it from desirability first. What would be most desirable for this end user that we are solving for? And what is it that they are thinking and feeling, which we did during empathy exercise and the definition? What would solve that problem the best? And this entire circle is filled up of those ideas. After that, they come to what's feasible, which is then this intersection. And then they come to, what's viable, which then gets to the sweet spot, which is where incredible ideas exist, right? This is the place where amazing ideas exist, which are highly desirable and feasible and as well as viable. They make money. These ideas are what are meaningful and memorable. And in order to do that, one simple hack is, when you're ideating, and if you're ideating in a group, then sit around and generate a high number of ideas. The larger the number of ideas, the better. Because at that stage, it's very, very important to not focus on coming up with the right idea, to not put filters in your mind that will reduce the number of ideas that are coming out, right? Instead, you just need to focus on generating a high number of ideas, because in this phase, quantity wins over quality. You will do well if you generate a very broad range of possibilities as opposed to very specifically correct ideas. This allows you to then get your imagination to go to a really far away place, very likely still anchored on what the end user wanted. And then that allows you to operate from being of coming down from a desirability and hitting the sweet spot. Otherwise, when you are working with feasibility and or viability, you will stay here. You'll create a solution that's practical, but that others don't use because it's not desirable for them. And that's a complete waste of time, money, and resources. So that's one hack for ideating differently. And after ideation, uh, given time, I will skip this, but I'll be happy to share this example with you. Check out, this is an American example of how Bank of America created one of the most successful and highly adopted programs called Keep the Change. It draws upon a small insight, quote unquote, small insight of people who have limited means and resources. And in America, even 20 years back and even now, people use checkbooks. And every time they're spending, you can see this chart, like let's say $3.43, 57 cents from their account is put into a savings account, and the bank contributes another 57 cents to it. So let's say we are using Beam, and you could organize the same thing using Beam or any other payment mechanism as well, and the same amount is contributed by the bank itself. And all of this small change adds up at the end of the month and at the end of the year for people who are living hand to mouth. And this was a huge hit in the United States, so much so that it's one of the largest, most successful loyalty programs of its kind. And that too in a highly regulated sector like financial services and banking, where there were 2 million signups in the launch year itself. So far in the past 15 years, More than 12 million customers have enrolled. This data is 2 years old at least. And for beyond all of this, I would like you to focus on these two metrics. 60% of the people who come into Bank of America actually enroll in the program. That means 6 out of 10 people think this is a highly desirable program to enroll into. More than that, 99% of the people who sign up continue with the program. Once they are in, almost everyone stays because they love it. And this was based on a few small insights that were put together using design thinking. And a company called IDEO helped them with this. IDEO is quite a master of using design thinking for creating fabulous products, services, and experiences. So, as an additional or a side, I would encourage you to check them out. The quote from one of their SVPs of product development was is here. And I think I could just read this out for you. There was an almost unexpected and very emotional effect from this new service. People who previously never had savings suddenly did. And it wasn't the amount that mattered. Even a small amount of money in their savings account gave them a sense of power and control over their finances. And the reason this is, I think, even more poignant for all of us who are looking to make a difference in people's lives or have an opportunity to make that difference is because when we live in circumstances that feel limited, our ability to think changes. And for people who are, I'm gonna quote from this study um, that was done in Princeton in 2013. That when you have a mindset of lack and limits, then it shows that this state of mind actually impairs the brain power needed to navigate not just financial but other aspects of your life. And in all your decisions, you will operate from lack as opposed to abundance. And of course, it's easier said than done for me, someone who's been fortunate enough to live a life of privilege, to say operate from abundance. But as a designer and as someone who's solving, I think it's important for us to know that our mindset and our problem solving ability is shaped by the environment we live in. And if we are able to create a sense of control for people or a sense of power and an emotional effect that makes them feel more secure, even if it is within that small limited environment they live in, it will make them make better decisions. Their brain will automatically shift to thinking and working differently. And that is an insight I wanted to share as you tackle the witch hunt and as you're learning this. I think it's really important for us to understand that we as designers can create situations, products, services, experiences that help people feel in control and have power over making a change for themselves. And this, in other words, is also called restoring the agency of people to make better choices for themselves and have the and to live a life of dignity. Um, and then that kind of segueing back into the fifth step, fourth and the fifth step are prototype and test. Prototype and test are all about uh, are not about PowerPoint presentations. They are about actually building stuff and showing people things that they can touch, feel, and react to. Like, I don't know if my screen's glitching, but showing them things that you can actually experience brings out better feedback. The bigger thing also in prototyping and testing is expect to do a lot of experiments that help you learn more rather than get to a final solution in the first shot itself. Imagine doing many rapid iterations of something to get to something phenomenal. And it's not about being correct, but it's about designing to create something that will help you learn more. Um, and therefore, prototyping is really about designing the right thing rather than designing the thing correctly. So if you're designing a backpack, rather than solving for its functional strength first, if adoption is the challenge, and the user's need is comfort, then maybe you should solve for that. If the comfort, of course, comes also is determined by the kind of weight that the bag carries, then add weight to it, and so on. The point really is, are you testing for the right things to begin with? And by testing and building prototypes like this, you will actually see that you learn much more about the user's needs as well as about the product and the service and the experience. So design the right thing first and then design it right. Uh, so, build so that you can think better. You can do storyboards, you can do mock-ups. You don't have to know technology to do it. You don't have to be an artist to draw out a storyboard. But you need to be able to envision what the future will look like, and articulate it and bring it to life for people. Because as we know, a picture is 1,000 words, and a prototype is worth 1,000 pictures. A prototype also starts a conversation, gives you more stories, gives you more anecdotes, and adds to your ability to understand the end user better. It also allows us to fail quickly and cheaply. It allows us to test possibilities through low res, low fidelity prototypes, and make this an integral part of your solution process. And you can also test only smaller parts of a larger solution rather than the entire solution itself. So break down a large problem into smaller testable pieces and test them out on a continuous basis. Um, and therefore, just as a recap, and like I was saying earlier, the process is not linear, but empathy is about understanding the user's unmet and articulated needs. And you would be looking to uncover emotions, and you would be seeking stories. From empathy, you can go to define. You should go to define in the first pass of solving a problem. There, you would look to reframe the problem and not just go after root causes, but go after what, if solved, would be game changing for that stakeholder, and identify meaningful surprises and tensions that people and the system is holding, and get insights and not just observations from observing people and by discussing amongst yourselves. From there, you go to ideate, where quantity wins over quality. And it's important to brainstorm radical ideas first and build on others' ideas and suspend judgment. And remember how Disney does ideation. Give time in that dreamer room and begin there, then go to the spoiler room and the realist room. After that, get to prototyping and create low res objects, experiences, stories, role play to understand, different features and people, and build quickly so that while building, you will actually learn many new things. And then you can do testing and test with actual end users. And this requires a lot of strength because, which is the strength to be vulnerable, because people will tell you what they don't like. And if it is half cooked, of course, there will be many things that are not well done. They will give you feedback on that. But perfect is the enemy of progress. Rather than create a perfect solution and take the time to do it, you can create many imperfect solutions and then get to something that's fantastic. Um, and that's what this is all about. Embrace failure, but you also get deeper empathy, and you can refine solutions along with customers and take them along in the solution, right? And that's one way to do it. And then as you test it, you may want to go back to empathy, or you may go back to define that, so that you are focused on, oh my God, we were solving the wrong problem. Or you may go back to ideating and thinking differently as well. Um, that's one place to take a pause, but I could also cover in the next 5 minutes where should you not use design thinking. And I can also give you a few tools and templates for practicing all of these steps. Um, I wouldn't want to use design thinking typically for solving known problems with known solutions. At best, by using design thinking, you will create innovation with a small I from a process, and you may do it faster, better, or cheaper. But unknown problems and unknown solutions is where wicked problems and crazy solutions stay. Design thinking is a fantastic place for using uh, when the problem itself is not really well understood. Different people have different versions of the problem, or it's a multifaceted problem. It's education, nutrition, patriarchy, gender violence, all of that put together. Uh, to that impacts someone's ability to live a better life. I would call that an unknown or a truly wicked problem. And then an unknown solution, which is we really don't know how to solve that. Many different things have been tried, but nothing has worked fantastically. You would want to use design thinking there, and this is where it will give you the highest possibility of driving innovation with a big I relative to the innovation with a small I. Um, that's where you would also give yourself the best chance to, go outside the box and do things much more efficiently than have been ever done before. Um, the way to do this would be, and I had some examples of this, but I'll skip that in the interest of time. And let me give you, and it's 12:15, so my apologies. I don't think I timed this well to give you a chance to test run it. I'll send you this as a template, so you can do some of this test run yourself. But and this is like a 20-30 minute exercise that you can do, 15 to 20 minute exercise before you do anything for solving a problem. And I'm reiterating, I started with this, that we should know I am not equal to the user. Even if you are part of that cohort, you're solving for Gen Z or millennials, and you are a Gen Z, the others are not like you. It's important to start there so that you can build empathy, build it over time, and build it through observation as well as open-ended questions, and not through yes, no, multiple choice answer things. Understand context, understand behavior, and understand their values. It's important to engage, to interact, and to immerse yourself in the other person's world and their life for us to understand their stories and their emotions, and then walk a mile, literally, if possible, in their shoes. Only then you would be able to think like them, and be able to map that empathy map that I shared with you. And or that's here, right? And this is an exercise that helps do this um, in a rapid surrogate empathy manner. So let's say you pretend to be the person you're solving for, and we would have played this for 10 minutes, but I will ask you to do this, request you to do this on your own. I call this template the IMBB template. It starts with the first question of I am. And let's say, five of you get together and you're solving for, let's say, children in India who are at risk of being trafficked, and you're focused on children between 7 to 12, and you have parents who are migrant labor, and you're solving to ensure that they are safe and they have a good life. And you would come up with solutions for that. The first step then would be to say, let's say, Raghu. I'm Prateek. I'm 7 years old. I am a little child. I don't get too many meals every day. I am hungry. I'm thirsty. I am loved by my parents. Whatever comes to your mind for that child, you write that in the I am. Then you get to I want to, or I'm trying to. I want to play. I want to be with my parents. I want to eat. I want to study. I want to have toys, and so on and so forth, right? So you can continue to do as many post-its as possible. The more post-its, the better. And then you get to, and I would have, so you take time to do this, and the more post-its, the better. Uh, and if you do it as a team, you can put one big poster, and everyone can put their post-its here. After I want to, and I want to can also be framed as I'm trying to. Then you go from I'm trying to, because, and you give reasons. Why is that stakeholder wanting to do these above things? Why do they want to try to do this, etc., etc.? Feel free to also not just write, but you can also draw things, whatever works for you. But try and engage both parts of the brain, if you will, the writing and the drawing part. And then you get to I want to do this because, but, and you write about what's stopping you from doing all this. What are the challenges? What are the hurdles that you need to overcome uh, to do what you want to do? And then a really important part, which many of us miss, and we in design thinking circles emphasize a lot, is to also record how does that make the person feel. It could make them feel frustrated. It could make them feel small. It can make them feel angry. It can make them feel not cared for, not loved, and so on and so forth, or powerful and strong and safe, whatever it is that comes to your mind. Once you have this gives us one shot at thinking of uh, uh, the world from their perspective. But almost always, I have seen that if you do this exercise, let's say at the beginning of an empathy or a research session, then you go to do research, and be open enough to rejoice when all of this turns to trash. So you come back and say, all of what I thought about them was actually wrong. And then you actually fill this with the additional knowledge you have. You are being a good designer, and you're getting closer to where the stakeholder is, so that you can actually use uh, what they're truly thinking and feeling, but not saying. And especially in our country and our context, we tend to not say a lot of things, and we tend to not articulate our feelings. And we only say things what we think the other person would like to hear or are pleasant for them. I would, maybe I'm really repeating myself, but for the fifth time perhaps, focus heavily on empathy. And then for define also, there are two ways in which you can do. Write down as many problem statements as you can. Just like an ideation, I was saying quantity wins over quality. One way to frame the question is, how might we? How might we ensure that a 7-year-old child always feels safe and is taken care of when in a difficult, unsafe situation? How might we ensure a 7-year-old child always has something to eat, to read, to learn new things, whatever, right? Like write down 50 different how might we statements. Don't put pressure on yourself to solve them. This is not a solution. This is a problem statement. And I think staying with the problem is very, very critical before jumping into solutions. Most of us, and I'm an engineer, trained as an engineer, learned design later. I know in schools, in exams, we are given points for coming to the solution as quickly as possible. Stay with the problem and help others stay with the problem itself. One other way then also is to frame the problem as well as the solution is give yourself leeway to go into the future. So maybe not even 2030, but you could say by 2040. And you could say that it would be ridiculous if so and so thing still happens by 2040, and finish this sentence. It would be ridiculous if we don't have enough to take understand whenever a child is at risk anywhere in the city of Delhi, and finish as many of these sentences as you can. This allows you to go into the dreamer room quite automatically, because being in the future uh, drops our filters automatically of feasibility and viability. And that can help you then not just maybe reframe problems, but also come up with ideas that are more in the dreamer room. And then you can take them to the spoiler room and the realist room, and then build prototypes and then test them out. And let's see if this will still play. We could end here. Oops.
Unfortunately, I think we are not able to
Hear
read
the
or
music?
hear the sound.
Ah, okay. Then I can cut it out. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, but you should send us this deck, Pratik. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
It has the Star Wars music.
oh, nice. I missed it. Very
I'll
nice.
share it. Yeah, it just says different things about what is good design and great design.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Pratik. I think it was very wonderful. We are already at 12:26, and I was just wondering if we can spend next 4 minutes, if there are any questions or reactions, reflections from anyone. Exactly 4 minutes. And if required, we will see if we can do a follow-up, taking a clue
Yeah.
from Pratik.
Yeah, absolutely. Can do.
So any questions, any clarifications, quickly post it on chat, and we're cognizant of time. We already overshot by
Yes.
25, 26 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, but it
I
was
am, yeah,
while people
I'll be happy
post.
to answer anything later as well. And I'm
Perfect.
happy to be available for anything that comes up later.
Wonderful. So we will take that offer, Pratik, for sure, for being a mentor on design thinking, if as the teams are progressing towards their solution, problem definition, and solution development. I think we will definitely uh, get back to you. But yeah, personally, I mean, Pratik, it's always very nice to hear from you because the way you articulate, and having internalized the whole process of design thinking and leveraged it in many, many, problem situations, I think that just shows up, that experience. And every time I hear you, I personally get some nuggets of it. So thank you so much. Dipti, over to you.
Thank you, Prateek. Students, if you don't have any questions, as Prateek said, he is always available for questions anytime. Um, yes, the students are also thanking you, sir. So, anytime, just drop in your questions to us, and we'll be able to connect with Prateek for getting solutions. So, a sincere thank you to Prateek for an inspiring and thoughtful, thought-provoking session on design thinking. You reminded us of Norman's idea that everything is designed, few things are redesigned well, and that if we want a world we like, we must actively design it. Right? He
Yeah.
also helped us understand design thinking as problem solving approach, almost like yoga for the mind, a mindset we can practice before, during, and after every interaction or transactions. Right? A key takeaway we was the importance of deeply understanding the need of all stakeholders, because meaningful solutions begin with truly knowing the people we are designing for. You also highlighted that the great solutions sit at the intersection of desirability, feasibility, and viability, creating ideas that people truly want, solutions that can realistically be built, and innovations that can sustain and grow over time. The design thinking framework you shared gave us a clear path, emphasized design, ideate, and the journey forward to prototype and test. We especially appreciate your guidance on where not to use design thinking, reminding us that the approach is most powerful for solving complex, human centered challenges and should be applied thoughtfully where it creates real values. Thank you for equipping us with mindset and tools to design solutions that truly matter. We are grateful for your time, insights, and inspiration, Prateek. Thank you.
Very
Thank you
kind
so
of
much,
you.
Pratik.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Pleasure.
thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Dipti,
All
and thank
right.
you all participants, and have a wonderful Sunday. See you again next week.
Yes, everyone.
Bye-bye.
All the
Thank you.
best.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye.